bullying. So in this video, I just want to talk about crucial conversations, tools for talking when stakes are high, and it's going to be in chapter 6, which is how to master your stories and how to stay in dialogue when you're angry, scared, or hurt. So I'm just going to start by reading the first couple of paragraphs here just for an introduction. So it says, at this point, you may be saying to yourself, how am I supposed to remember how to do all this stuff, right? How to, while you're in the middle of a crucial conversation, an unexpected one at that, and your emotions are running high, how am I supposed to do all this self-reflective stuff and apply all these tools? So, especially when my emotions are raging like hot magma. This chapter explores how to gain control of crucial conversations by learning how to take charge of your own emotions, by learning to exert influence over your own feelings. You'll place yourself in a far better position to use all the tools we have explored thus far. So, and then they start off by a subtitle that says, he made me mad. He made me right? Like, you know, kind of saying like somebody made you act out a certain way because of the way that they behaved, right? Which, you know, they point out, you know, you ever heard, you know, how parents tell their children, like, no, they didn't make you hit them. You chose to do that. Like, you have control over your own body, right? Which is true. We have control, or we can try to have control, I guess, over our responses, is the point that this book is making and trying to help people to attain to. So they describe something called a path to action. So the path to action is basically everything that leads up to the point of your actions. So what is everything that happens between you observing what somebody else has, what you perceive done to you, or, you know, what somebody else has objectively done, and, you know, what goes on in between that point and your actions as to what you're doing in response to what that person has done, right? There's something that takes place there, and it can happen lightning fast. They say emotions just don't happen. So they are not foisted upon you by others, right? Other people don't give you your emotions. No matter how comfortable it might make you feel saying it, others don't make you mad, right? You make you mad. You and only you create your emotions. So once you've created your emotions, you have only two options. You can act on them or be acted on by them. That is, when it comes to strong emotions, you either find a way to master them or fall hostage to them. And then they give this example of this woman named Maria who is giving this presentation with her partner in this business, and they're giving this presentation to their boss, and her coworker, I should say, is taking over the presentation. He's hogging everything. He barely lets her speak or have a word in. So she creates a story around that. Her story is a negative one, that he doesn't respect her. He doesn't, you know, they don't think women should speak, you know. So she creates all this story around these objective, you know, actions that lead to her, you know, negative emotions, and hence her negative reaction or behavior. So what they're saying is the story that we make about an observable fact is what creates our feelings around that event. So we see something, we hear something, right? It's a fact, it's observable, you know. Then we tell a story about it. And I think they didn't mention this at first. I don't know if later in the chapter they will. But I think some stories happen lightning fast because we've already created stories for those situations, and we have them available already to us. Like, maybe something of that type of situation happened in the past. We created a story then, and therefore we kind of apply that story later in the future for similar situations. So we see or hear something, we tell ourselves a story about that, and then we feel a certain way, and then we act a certain way. So it reads here, just after we observe what others do, and just before we feel an emotion about it, we tell ourselves a story. That is, we add meaning to the action we have observed. To the simple behavior, we add motive. Why were they doing that? We also add judgment. Is that good or bad? And then based on these thoughts of the meaning or the motive we attach to it and how we judge that motive, we create a story, and then our body responds with an emotion. So yeah. So their point is, because we're the ones telling the story, that there's hope, because we can change a story, based on the observable facts, and that there's many stories that we might be able to tell ourselves about a situation. And of course, they do leave room for situations that are obviously where you are a victim, where, you're at gunpoint. Somebody's holding a gun to your head. Somebody's robbing you. But they're talking about, I guess, the 90% of other times where, where we can change a story around an observable fact. So they say, since we and only we are telling the story, we can take back control of our own emotions by telling a different story. We now have a point of leverage or control. If we can find a way to control the stories we tell by rethinking or retelling them, we can master our emotions and therefore master our crucial conversations. Okay, so stories explain what is going on. Exactly what are our stories? They are our interpretations of the facts. So this is interesting because I feel like this also applies to everything, right? The world we see around us. This is why we have so many debates in science, right? And talking about the shape of the earth and what microbes are and what their functions are, right? Because we see something, there is an observable fact. There is, we see that when we zoom a camera lens out a long distance, that the earth does not curve, right? We see that there's stars and moon and the sun in the sky, and then we create stories or ideas around why these things are so. We see they see microbes under a microscope, and then create stories around that, and different groups have different stories. So stories explain what's going on. Exactly what are stories? I read that already, excuse me. So again, stories are interpretations of the facts. They help explain what we see and what we hear. They are theories we use to explain why, how, and what. So for instance, the character they use for to further demonstrate their point is Maria asks, why does Louis take over, right? Well, her story is, he doesn't trust my ability to communicate. He thinks that because I'm a woman, people won't listen. Our stories also help explain, how am I supposed to judge all of this? Is this a good or a bad thing? Louis thinks I'm incompetent, so therefore this is bad. Finally, a story might also include, what should I do about all of this? If I say something, he'll think I'm a whiner or oversensitive or militant, so it's best to clam up. Of course, as we come up with our own meaning or stories, it isn't long until our body responds with strong feelings or emotions. They are directly linked to our judgments of right or wrong, good or bad, kind or selfish, fair or unfair, etc. Maria's story yields anger and frustration. These feelings in turn drive Maria to her actions, toggling back and forth between clamming up and taking an occasional cheap shot. So she's resorting to silence in her situation, right? Even if you don't realize it, you are telling yourself stories. When we teach people that it's our stories that drive our emotions and not other people's actions, someone inevitably raises a hand and says, "Wait a minute, I didn't notice myself telling a story when that guy laughed at me during my presentation. I just felt angry. The feelings came first, the thoughts came second." Storytelling typically happens blindingly fast. When we believe we're at risk, we tell ourselves a story so quickly that we don't even know we're doing it. And this is the part where I think that it could have been mentioned that there might be stories we already have created. This man could have, something could have happened to him in his childhood where, he was treated wrongly, or like he was laughed at a lot or bullied, and created a story there around it. And now anytime somebody laughs at him, that story is immediately there available for him to use. So with this example about Maria, they just make the point that she could have made up another story that he didn't let her talk as much, because of other reasons. And then they go into different types of stories that people engage with: clever stories, victim stories, villain stories, helpless stories. And then maybe I'll get into that in the next video on expounding on each of those stories. But for this video, I just wanted to talk about just stories in general and how we can be empowered by taking a step back and possibly creating a different story that doesn't cause us so much intense pain, and therefore, affect our actions. So, all right, I'll just end the video here. Take care, everyone, and thanks for watching.